You're listening to a Skewed Orbit original podcast.
Time, weather, and always pass.
Welcome back to the Rachel LaForce Show. That's right, it's me, Rachel LaForce, and this is my show because to name it anything else would just make it harder to Google. If you are listening for the first time, hi, how are you? Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Me incessantly posting, being like, listen to the Rachel LaForce Show. You should listen to the Rachel LaForce Show. Have you heard about the Rachel LaForce Show? Happy to hear that it is now, I have incepted you. And you're here. This is awesome. If you're not familiar, this is a spiritual podcast from me, a comedian, for people who, quote unquote, aren't spiritual. Now you may be thinking, Rachel, I'm highly spiritual. That's great. We will take you too. It's just kind of, I'd like to think that I'm a gateway drug for self-awareness. You know what I mean? So, yeah, put that on my tombstone. Oh, just kidding. I want to be cremated. Anyway, friends, let's get into it. What are we talking about this week? That's a good question. I have no idea. If you are like me, everything has been going so fast. I've been talking the last couple episodes about slowing down and what does that mean? What does that look like? And it is hard. It is really hard. And not just like it's because of the patriarchy and hustle culture, just like ADD. Like I have really, really begun to recognize how my ADD, my ADHD, I don't like to say that I'm OCD. I have not been diagnosed, and I know that that's something that we need to be aware of, not overusing, but all of these tendencies and aspects of this kind of neurodivergent spectrum, as it were, this highly sensitive being. And even how every time I think that I've slowed down, I'm like, oh, you still going like fast AF. I'm really trying to like eat before I have coffee. Wouldn't actually think that that's a skill that one needs to develop. Turns out it's a really hard skill to develop, to have, is just to fucking feed yourself before you just like chock your system full of just like beets. You know what I mean? Like what? It's not even so much where it's like, oh, I'm tired. I need some coffee. Like, yes, there's so much of that, but so much of us now are just like, I want to feel. Like, I mean, this should not be a coffee cup. This is like a gallon. You know, this should be what you're like hydrating with. Nope. I've got just heavy coffee in that. And then I've got, just the fixums that the first thing in the morning, like what are we doing? I'm not going to speak for you. I don't know. Maybe you're like living on a farm and you're like, I've got a compost bin, you know, I do my daily affirmations in the morning. I don't. Right now, though, our life is just super rock and roll. Like, who knew having kids would just be like, it's not boring. It's not adventurous, at least in this iteration, but it's not boring. It is for sure the most like high octane, adrenaline pumping experience. Of just like, we're up all night and then we're up all morning. Like, honestly, if you wanted a night nurse, you should hire somebody who's on cocaine. That would really be, you know what I mean? Like, what I need right now is like, all of a sudden my baby's crying at 2 a.m. and like, pff, in the door comes somebody who's like, what's up? You want a party? You want me to feed your baby? Let's go. You know, and they're just like taking over. And then it's 6 a.m. again. And they're like, what's up? I haven't even left. I'm still here. You know, I've been arranging all of your spices in alphabetical order. That's what you need. That's what you need. It's like when you have, like, I don't need to be ingesting more coffee to try to keep up. I just need somebody who's, you know, kind and on a little bit of cocaine. Just saying. I understand cocaine is a real problem, but I'm just saying, you know, somebody's going to use, let's put them to work. That's what I'm saying. Every mom with littles needs a friend with who's on cocaine. That's all I'm saying. Healthy partnership. Yeah. So it's been wild of trying to slow down. Like today I was late in doing this. I told my brand manager, I'm like, 1:30, we're there. I did make it by 1:40. We didn't start till much later, but I did make it up to the studio by 1:40. But yeah, I was like, to slow down and first make a meal. Not just like I'm like, oh, I threw some hard-boiled eggs with cottage cheese and avocado in a bowl. Okay, great. Better than eating like a bag of popcorn. But it's like, okay, to slow down. And I like had to cut up protein and cut vegetables together and like wait for, you know, ghee to melt in a pan. And then I put everything else in there and then we stir it up. And then I sat down. That's right. Pause for dramatic fucking effect. Then I sat down, wait for it, without my phone, and ate a meal just at my little kitchenette table, just listening to the birds outside, no distractions. That was hard for me, you know? And that's the thing. We're all like, oh, I wish we could just like get away. Wish we could get away. It's like, do you really? Because in my mind, like for you to get away means you're just going to sit down and then like be in a really pretty pace, but like pretty pace, be in a pretty place, but you're just going to be on your phone. That's all you're going to do. Like to actually slow down and be present in everything that I'm doing. Because the other day I was like, I think I need to take Post-it notes and put them around my house on the things that I want to slow down and do. So like on my refrigerator, it'll be like, have you eaten yet? So it's like eat before, because like really I wake up and I go to my refrigerator and I make this giant gallon of coffee like a maniac. You know, it's like, that's what we do. And then we're all going, oh, I don't know, my hormones are so out of whack. You know, we're like, oh, I don't know why I can't like maintain a healthy weight, or why my nervous system is out of alignment. Like these are not difficult things. And it's ready, available information. Like we're just making it harder to be alive. Like that's what I've realized. I'm like, oh, these aren't where I need to like highly educate myself as like sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to learn more about like my lymphatic system. And it's like, no, you need to stop drinking gallons of coffee before you've hydrated or eaten anything, you idiot. Like like we make this so difficult of all of the ways of which like, oh, now we're going to get in shape, you know, where it's like, oh, I really got to learn like how all these, you know, muscle groups or all these things before. Just go to the gym. Just go to the gym. You don't even have to go to the gym. Just leave your house. Just go outside. Just walk around for like an hour. Can you walk around for an hour? You know, we got to stop making things so complicated. And that's what I've really realized. That's what also allows you, like, when you slow down, you'll realize, like, oh, all this shit's actually super simple. I'm the one that's been going at, like, a just insane, pace. I can't even say the word. That's how fast I'm going, right? We've just been going at such an insane pace for so long that we don't even know what it would be like to actually slow down. And then that's why we feel like we're behind. You're not behind. First of all, behind who? Number one. And number two, behind not even who, but what? What is it that you're trying to accomplish that like has to be done now? It's like, we're all just walking around like a bunch of adrenaline junkies, you know? Like also, I blame Red Bull. Red Bull gives you wings. Stay on the ground, motherfucker. You don't need wings. You don't need to be able to fly, okay? You should not be drinking something out of a tin can that you don't even know what's in it. Like, just slow down. I don't know, or maybe you're fine you do you. Maybe you're fine going a million miles an hour. But for me, I'm really working on like getting back in my body, slowing down and figuring out like what is an actual pace? Because it's like so much of my drinking was an aspect of like, it's too overwhelming to go slow. It's too overwhelming. Like I didn't know what to do with the time. Does that make sense? Like when you're aware of how much time you actually have, that's the other thing about going slow. Time doesn't slow down. You actually realize like, oh, that's what a minute is. Huh. All right. It's kind of a long time. Like if right now I posted a clip of me just being silent for a minute, I dare you to sit through it. Ready? That was only 45 seconds, okay? Like, get real. That's the thing. We're all like, oh, it's got to be done now, or I got to do this, I got to do that. And it's like, you don't even know how long it feels to sit in a minute. Because now, you've got the algorithm that's like, it really favors 5-second videos. 5 seconds? Get the fuck out of here with that. If you're a grown-ass adult and you can't sit down and be quiet for 5 minutes, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. You heard it here first. You shouldn't be allowed to vote. You shouldn't be like in charge of other people. Like that's insane. All the things that we ask kids to do. Can you just sit down, please? Can you sit down and be quiet, please? Can you sit down and be quiet, please? And yet I had to write on a Post-it note, eat before you drink coffee. We're all just a bunch of drunk toddlers. That's all we are. I have to put Post-it notes around my home that remind me to slow down and wash my face, brush my teeth at night before I lay down. What a psycho. That's the thing. It's like, I feel like I would judge somebody if I went to their house and they had Post-it notes everywhere, like telling them like basic things that they should be doing. I don't know anybody who's just like getting through their day and doing all of these things because we're so in our head and we're so ungrounded to the shit that we're actually doing. It's like, it used to just be, I feel like sequestered to reading a book, right? A lot of people, if you have ADD and it's like, oh, I can't read physical books because I'll read a few pages. And then I realized like, I don't even know what it was that I was reading. And so then I got to go back and I got to read it again. That's all we're doing all of the time, everywhere, right? We're driving, but driving isn't enough. Then we got to listen to something, or we're listening to a podcast, but then we're not even actually listening to the podcast. We're kind of like thinking about our own thing while listening to the podcast while driving a vehicle. Guys, what are we doing? We have to get back to actually being grounded and not where we need like a full-on morning routine to get us there. So that's so much of what I'm practicing is like, how can I just get my life in a routine to where I'm so steady and grounded that all I need when I wake up is like a little bit of like, okay, where are we at today? Like kind of quick, spiritual hygiene in the morning, kind of get us going. And like, boom, we're back in it. Like how, because that's the other thing. It's like, Hollywood lies to you. Social media lies to you. Corporate lies to you. All of these major institutions, diet culture, all of these things lie to you that it's like, it's got to be fast. You've got to be first. Even that, we have a society that's predicated on you being first. Even though everybody loves to be like, oh, tortoise in the hair. Tortoise in the hair. Shut the fuck up. It's like, that's the thing. We're preaching all of these things and we're touting all these things, yet we're not actually even implementing them. It's like, oh, yeah, go your own pace, but like, fuck it, you got to be first. Yeah, body culture, love your body, but like, you should still be like hot. You know what I mean? Like that's when we really care about you. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, but like, are you rich? You know, like all of these things that we, consciously choose a partner, but like, are you married yet? When are you going to have babies? Like, no wonder we're all fucked up. And you're maybe like, Rachel, speak for yourself. I'm not fucked up. I'm centered. Well, okay. You and Jesus, you know, most of us out here, myself included. That's the thing. It's like, this is what I like teach and encourage people to do for a living. And I had to put Post-it notes around my home. So like, take the pressure off. Okay. All right. So now we know we're going too fast. So much of it is part of our culture. We can't slow down. We can't. So it's like, okay, then what do we do to actually begin to slow down? First, I don't think we can even do so without acknowledging, and I don't think we can do it without faith, first and foremost. Meaning not even like faith in God or faith in the universe, the creator, however you define. I think faith within ourselves and trusting if we slow down that we're still going to get there. That's the first part. Because otherwise you're not actually going to slow down. You're just going to like make it look like that. You know, it's going to be like, oh, I did some grounding exercises today. Yeah. And then did you chug a bunch of coffee and work till 10 p.m. anyway? Then it doesn't, then like, who the fuck cares that you stood outside for 5 minutes and like connected to the earth, okay? Like then if you went against every single thing that you did to set up your day, then it doesn't mean anything, right? It essentially, it feels like the same as binge drinking where it's like, you know, well, I'm not doing it all the time or I'm not thinking about drinking. It's like, you know, or I didn't drink for 4 days this week. Okay, yeah, but then if you just like chocked your body full of like, you know, insert your favorite type of alcohol here. You know, it's like, then you just got like blacked out on Frosé for 2 days, like with your girlfriends. It's like, well, then it defeats the purpose. So I think the first thing is we have to get grounded in inner trust. I am safe to slow down. I am safe to slow down. Not it. Not the world. Fuck all of them. You have to be so rooted in who you are and what your offerings are and that you're going to get there. We don't need anybody else. Even like co-create with the universe. Even like for right now, like this is the most selfish, please right now be as selfish as possible. I am safe to slow down. I allow myself to go at my own pace. Because what we need to do, the reason we go so fast is we don't have true inner trust. Or I won't speak for you, for me. I don't truly believe that unless I'm on my phone all day long responding to all of these comments and all of these things that the algorithm is going to go without me and then I'm never, you know, what I want to do isn't going to happen and then I'm not. Meanwhile, everybody's making a lot of money off of me. And sure, there is some truth to you're going to get places maybe quote unquote faster if you're on this thing all day long or you're peddling your wares or whatever it is that you're doing. Sure. Okay. But then I'm going to look like a psychopath once I arrive and I'm not even going to be present for it because I'm going to be so strung out of trying to be at a pace that doesn't even make any sense. Then what does it matter? I'm not even going to enjoy it when I get there. So frankly, what was the point of quitting drinking? Because when I was drinking, it was to not be present with what I was doing. So at least I could like be drunk and have a little bit more fun. You know, it's like if I'm choosing to be sober and choosing to be with my life, then be with your life. Be there with it, right? So that's the first thing. We have to have that inner trust. And I do. Like, just let me speak for me, and then hopefully it'll gas you up. It's like I do genuinely believe that everything that I am creating is going to come into fruition in the way that I see it being. This is going to be the #1 podcast for crossover of comedy and spirituality. I am going to be on tour again. I am going to be in your city. I am, all of these big things that I've been working towards. But it's like, it really is that where I was like, but girl, can you just like slow down and like eat breakfast too? You know what I mean? Like, why does one have to be at the cost of the other? So that's one part of it. And then the other part really is where it's like, how can you support yourself in slowing down? And maybe that means putting Post-it notes of super obvious shit around your home where people are going to come over and go, I'm worried about you. You have a Post-it note on your refrigerator that says, eat. Fair. But if that's what supports you, then do the things that support you. Because chugging a giant thing of coffee or finishing a bottle of wine before 8 p.m. or, calling your ex or going fat or whatever it is for you, that's not supporting you in what you want to do. So we don't do that shit anymore. And you're allowed to call yourself back in the middle, right? It's like if you meditate, maybe you're really good at it. Maybe you're trying to get into it. Or maybe you're like, I hear that's a thing that people do. Never going to do that. Also fair. Right? And like, if that's something that you do, right? So we know in meditation, a lot of times it's like anytime that if there's a new thought that comes up, allow the thought to come up and wave to it and let it go. Right? It's the same thing. Like, you don't have to go for every ball. Meaning, like, every time that you're like, shit, I decided I didn't want to do this thing anymore. Okay, then just quit. Like, how much in life do you wish that you could just quit shit all the time? Okay? I'm like walking my kids to the playground. We're halfway there, and I'm like, wish this could be over. Not because I don't want to experience it with my kids, but I'm like, this is hard. I don't know if you've ever tried to walk a toddler and a newborn just on a sidewalk for an extended period of time. It should be an Olympic sport, because I'll tell you what, it's not easy. Okay? So there's plenty of things all the time that it's like you wish that you didn't have to do all the way. So when you find yourself in those things that it's like, oh, we don't do this anymore, then call yourself back. Give yourself permission. We don't do that anymore. We only do the things that support us in holding the pace that we want to have. And everyone's pace is going to be different. And maybe your pace too is like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going whole hog, right? And then you're like Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to build in a slower pace for myself. Saturday, Sunday, my time. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I think that's the other thing where it's like when you talk about living slow, like if you type in slow living on Instagram, it's just going to be like a bunch of women in beige, out in like chicken coops with their like 4 kids that are barefoot. And they're like, when we decided to live slow, it's like, yeah, you were probably in a privileged situation where you guys got to decide that that's what you wanted to do. Little house on the prairie, which also, no judgment. My husband and I talk about all the time, just blowing up our lives and having 5 kids on a farm. So I get it. But the point being that it's like what living slow means to you is going to be different for everybody. So again, that goes back to that like first thing, which is like, what is it for you? You have to learn to trust yourself and knowing that your pace is fine. And frankly, your pace may even be way faster than a lot of people, right? Or it may be a lot slower, but it's yours, right? And also, the great thing about doing anything for an extended period of time is that you build evidence, right? I talk about that all the time. You build evidence, and then you're building actual trust with yourself. Actual trust with yourself of like, oh, I can do things that support me and also like still quote unquote win, fucking rad. But you're not going to be able to like learn that for yourself until you slow down. And even if it's like not even about winning, it's as simple as like for me where it was like, man, that was really nice to be okay to like sit by myself and just like eat a meal without my phone. That was nice. You're going to discover new things. Give yourself moments of quiet. Give yourself moments of pure discovery. That's what I've learned. It's like when you, especially as a creator and whatever that means to you, right? When you're going so fast, because it's like, well, I've decided this is the thing. I've decided this is what it's going to be. There's no moments for new discovery. There's no moments, you know, it's like, that's what I always say, if I kin it to stand up, you know, if I just get up and I only do the jokes that I decided that I was going to do, rather than being like, I'm going to stay open to what this audience wants. I'm going to stay open to what this adventure is going to be. Some of the best bits that I have came out of an improvisation of something that I didn't think was going to happen on stage that night. Right? It goes back to, I've been talking a lot about flexibility. We talked about that in last week's episode with Alice. And it's like, where is that ability to like stay flexible so that you can discover maybe something completely new? And I don't know for you, but you know, it's like I always just kind of share what's really going on for me and trusting that it's going to resonate with you. Because whether it sounds woo-woo to you or not, collective energy is real. Meaning that now some of these things, the specificities may be different, or the part of which you're aware of these things may be different. But I have yet to meet anyone in real life that has mastered this sense of self-trust. So I'm going to put 10 on it that maybe this was something that you also needed to hear today. Not to like bring you into my world, you know, of like, well, this is how I feel, so you should feel that way. Which is hilarious. This just becomes like a blaming podcast. Could you imagine? So, those are 2 main bullet points. And I think that's enough. I was going to give you more, but it's like, fuck, I know for me, just the first one alone of learning to trust myself enough, because I spent, not to brag, excuse me, here she goes. I spent 30 some odd years truly believing that the answer was outside of me. And I still do that sometimes. Where it's like, I don't, maybe they know. No, they don't. No, they don't. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Everyone is making it up, right? And this idea where it's like, I want to get so good at trusting myself that then I can actually take other people in on a more beautiful level, because I'm like, oh, that's interesting that you think that. Tell me more about that. And I can begin to interact with people and hold relationships with people and hold associations with people and collaborations and all of these things with folks from a place of curiosity and a place of like, I want to know, like, tell me about your knowledge. Tell me about your life experience. So it becomes this place of almost archaeology, right? Rather than an anthropology, rather than, well, tell me what you think because I can't trust myself. Or I'm going to assume that if I hear you talk long enough that you're going to have the answer. It should just be about tools. Oh, this person I like listening to because they offer me this tool. I like listening to this person because they remind me of this thing, right? It's always one of the first things I ask people. Fun plug. You can sign up and do a free 15-minute call with me. Maybe it's just because you want some clarity. You've got a question you want to talk about. That's fine. I'm happy to, let's wrap on that for 15 minutes, you know? Maybe you're curious about working with me and you're like, hey, this is something I'm going through. Curious if this may be a good partnership. 15 minutes, totally free. No strings attached, right? So it's that same thing. I tell people whenever we chat in that 15 minutes, I'm like, when people talk about wanting to work with me, I'm like, hey, I want to remind you, like, I'm not going to be the person doing the work for you. I'm not going to be the person that's going to give you the answers. That's you. But also, if you've already made this appointment, if you're already here with me, you're already ready, right? If you're listening to this podcast, like, you are already in the position where you're ready to do the work. So that is something that I'm working on. And if it is something that you're like, man, I want to get better at that too, or that's something I'm working on, or all of those things, like, DM me, email me, please let me know. This is also something for me. Like, every time you guys send me a message and you're like, I loved that thing, it made sense to me, you have no idea how good that feels, because I'm like, oh, thank God. Because everything that I'm sharing, that I'm doing, that I'm creating is literally me being like, again, is that self-trust of going, is this working? Is this the thing? I think this is the thing. So it's super, super helpful. I wanted to, I've been kind of into this. It's been a fun tool recently of kind of like pulling some cards just to see kind of where we're at and what we're doing. So I'm going to pull a few just to close us out here on these ideas of grounding and kind of like what we're calling in. And really, because, I wrote this morning, and my favorite thing is when I write something before I'm even cognizant of it, just because it humbles me of like, oh yeah, none of this shit is from me. The comedy is for sure from human earthly Rachel, but like everything else, I'm not taking credit for this shit. Are you kidding? Like there was what I wrote today. Let me see if I can find it really quick. And it was in my Instagram. And if you've not been following along, I've been posting, today is the 9th. So you're not that far behind. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I've been posting a different tip every single day, something super small, something free and easy to do to really help you with your mental health. And it's something I've also been doing, so it's really great. And so I had posted something about, again, going too fast today, and I love this quote. I would say it's mine. Again, it's not. This was beyond me. But your power lies in your evolution. Slow down long enough to learn how to use it. So again, that is that sense of trust, that it's like your power lies within you. It lies within your evolution, within your ideas, your leadership, your, whatever that means. For you, that's where your power lies. But if you don't slow the fuck down and figure out how to yield it, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? It's like, that's where we make mistakes. That's when we don't trust ourselves. That's when we go out with people on a third date we knew we weren't supposed to. That's when we follow through on an idea because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't want to back out, all of these things. When you trust your power, A, there's going to be people who don't like you. B, you're going to ruffle some feathers. C, shit is going to get messy. It's not going to be pretty. That's not the guarantee. The guarantee is when you trust yourself and when you make choices and decisions from your highest self, from your favorite self, however you define it, right? You're most in tune with your therapist self. You are going to be more safe. That doesn't mean that things are going to be easy. It doesn't mean that things that it's going to be painful. Because sometimes making choices from that means that you're leaving jobs that you love, means that you're letting an opportunity sit on the table because you're like, you know what? As awesome as that would be on the outside, I know that thing is not for me. As much as I love this person and wish I could say yes to marrying them, I know I would be betraying some part of me if I do that and it's time for me to walk away. That shit's not easy. But when we talk about fast, I guarantee you that you're going to get to where you need to be faster because you chose the thing that you know is true, which is you, right? So your power lies in your evolution. Slow down long enough to learn how to do it. Like there was somebody posted, I wish I could remember who, that I saw recently, and it was like, slow down to be with yourself so you can learn who it is that you're dealing with. And like read it in bed and was just like finger snapping, where I was like, damn, okay, take us to church on a Tuesday morning. Like that's how I felt, where I was like, slow down long enough so you can learn who you're dealing with. Get the fuck out of here, dude. That's so good. Where I realized that, where it's like, no wonder I was making choices that weren't in service of myself. Because I was making choices thinking I was somebody else. I'm trying to make choices that somebody else would make. I'm not fucking them. Like when I slow down and I learn, like I was thinking about this, right? Alex and I still have like our old car. We've got a 2014 Honda. And every time I go to eat with other people and stuff like that, and like if I go on a business meeting or something and, you're waiting in the valet line, if you're in LA, you're for sure waiting in the valet line, and some of you might be like, valet line, fancy. Again, if you're in LA, there's a valet at the gym. But even here, and it's like, other people would be like, their Teslas pull up or their, whatever, insert really nice car here. And sometimes it's like, I get embarrassed of like, they're going to think. And then I was like, I don't give a fuck what they think. First of all, Alex and I are interested in investing our money other places. For me to have a fancy car right now or a nice new car, for me, if I'm living for me, that's not like, even if we talked about this recently, we're like, should we, we've got a little money, and we were debating where it was like, are we going to finish the backyard at our house is something we've wanted to do so that the boys can have a lot of space to play back there. I can have some space to, mama loves to be in nature. I can have some space to kind of be. And we were like, or do we want to get a new car? And of course, where I was like, no, that's, what we want as a family is this nice backyard. It's totally fine if people want to judge and be like, oh my God, I can't believe they like still have that old car. Again, that's not about me. That's about you. So again, just all of these, I just was wanting to, share some real life examples in case it wasn't driven home. So again, that was that idea where I was like, man, that's not a choice that I would have made for myself in different iterations of Rachel. So that's what I really loved about being in this place where I'm like, and also I'm kind of like, I love my old Honda CRV. Like I'm going to be, listen, mama's not going to be sad when she's sitting at the helm of, a new nice vehicle. But, where I was like, yeah, I love this car. It gets me safely to where I need to be. Like, she's zippy. I like her. Little water break. You want to know what's in this water? Fresh squeezed lemon. You want to know why? Because I slowed down long enough to cut it up this morning and put it in my drink. All right, let's pull some cards, fools. All right. This is from one of my favorite decks. This is Rebecca Campbell. Highly recommend her if you're not familiar with her work. Her book, I think it's Light is the New Black, was what I started reading when I was having my first spiritual awakening, and highly recommend it in any phase of your spiritual journey. Okay. Just going to pull one card from this deck. Just kind of see where we're at. All right. This one wants to come out. Oh, that's hilarious. Of course. I don't know why I'm always surprised when I pull a card and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So I know that you're not really going to be able to see it, but this card is align your life. Align your life. And underneath it says, what is not aligned or what needs to change. So again, that's, exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like when you learn who you are, then you're making choices for yourself. So it's all the things. So this booklet says, what in your life is no longer in alignment with who you truly are? Mm-hmm. We are cyclical beings in a constant state of change, of evolution. There's that word again. Of growth. Change is one of the only certainties in life. When you resist your cyclical nature, you resist life and feel stuck. Many of us have learned to be who the world wants us to be. Mama's going to read that sentence again. Many of us have learned to be who the world wants us to be. But there comes a time when it is harder to hold on to this facade than it is to embrace who we truly are. If you pulled this card, you're being called to let go of who you once were, or the things that you once defined yourself by, the job, the relationship, the mask you wore, and to embrace who you truly are, to courageously step into the person that you came here to be in full authenticity, to embrace your weirdness and your uniqueness. Perhaps you have outgrown some relationships or circumstances, and it is time to reassess and bring all the parts of your life into alignment so that they are congruent with who you truly are today. If you're listening to this, I'm just looking at the camera, dead stare. Like, guys, I can't make this shit up. You know what I mean? I can't make this up. Friends, this has been your latest episode of the Rachel LaForce Show. Talked about all things like just get out there, slow down. Tell me about if you've got these routines of ways that you slow down, things that help you. Let me know. I'm happy to share them. If you have not, a great place to share them is we've really been working on building up my YouTube page. So if you're a YouTuber, please go there, like, subscribe, share it, tell people about it. Let's get busy. Please help me, please. Let's make this thing awesome. So go over to my YouTube, get over to that. There is a community section. So I'm going to start to be utilizing that. This would be a great example of something on that page. So kind of talking about what are the ways in which you slow down? What are those routines for yourself? What does hashtag slow living look like for you? Where are you at in this phase of self-evolution? What does it mean for you to sit down and be with yourself? All of these questions and things that define us in this season. Let's talk about it. We're in spring. It's still May. We're in this place of blooming. We just came out of this, eclipse. And so much of it for me is where I'm like, I know who I am now. I feel grounded. So it's like, okay, if this is who we are, now we have to honor it so that we can get to this next evolution, right? This next place that we want to be. We've got to go slow. We need to trust that we're going to get there. And also when you're going so fast, you don't get to slow down and enjoy your small wins. So what are those for yourself? Slow down, enjoy those small wins, and help me achieve some small wins. I'm just trying to hit 100 subscribers right now on YouTube. This is a real humble adventure, okay? We're only at 75 subscribers. So let's build up that page. Let's do it. I'm going to be going live on YouTube a lot. I'm going to be doing some tarot pulls, some oracle card pulls, some energy reads, all of that good stuff. I'm going to be going live a lot more on Instagram as well. So in all of the places, please, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're following me on Instagram, but follow me there. Go and subscribe on YouTube. Also, it is still the month of May. I created a release and recovery workbook for you. It's only $11. It's up on my website. What this is it is a self-guided workbook. You can use it for the rest of this month. You can go slow. You can use it over however long you want. It's up to you, okay? I'm not going to tell you what to do. I just created it for you. And so it's really walking you through all of the things that you're ready to release, what that looks like, and then what are the things that you want to recover? What are the things that you want to call back in for yourself? And then at the end in June 4th, I'm going to do a workshop all about this release and recovery, and we're all going to come together and kind of talk about what these things have been like for ourselves this last month. And so there's a lot going on. So check out those two offerings as well. I will put links to those in the show notes here. Also, I've got in addition to my coaching, because I've got some coaching spots open. So you can either do a 3 or 6 month retainer with me. You can also do one-offs if you want. Something else that's special that I just came up with that I'm excited about. This is a release and recover one-on-one session. This is a 60-minute session, and this is what I'm calling spiritual couture. So I'm going to have you send me a little bit of information about why you're wanting to meet with me. I'm going to look that over, kind of meditate on that. And then when you join me, we're going to work together in something that is specific for you. So I'm going to call on all these different tools that I have that I utilize for myself, and we're going to do something specific for you with the goal being that you leave at the end of 60 minutes and you're feeling more confident, you have more clarity, and you've got some action that you want to take. Fucking for 60 minutes? Are you kidding? Sign up. Come work with me. Let's get this shit going, okay? It's like, I always tell people, I'm like, what I'm doing is not unique, right? There's plenty of people that have been doing it that helped me get to this place, and now I want to be here to help you, right? Like, shit's wild out there. All right, the least we can do is like slow down and try to figure out what we're going to do to make some real positive, sustainable change. So please, you know what? And even like, fuck that. Let's say that darkness still stays dark. Don't you want to enjoy your life a little bit more? Like, let's just make it simple. Don't you want to be a little bit happier and feel a little bit better? Feel like you'd got to say yes. All right, guys, I am so glad that you're here. You have no idea. You have no idea. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I'm really speaking to you that wherever you are in this journey, that you are safe, you are powerful, you are loved, and you're gonna fucking crush it, okay? So get out there. All right. Tune out, tune in. Love you, mean it.